Hey, good morning. Hope you are having a great day. So, I had a few thoughts and things around some of the remote work stuff that I've been hearing. And I think you've seen some of my videos on, companies really trying to step into remote work, respecting their employees' needs to remote work and embracing that. We've also talked about some of the either short-sightedness or far-sightedness of certain employers and companies to continue to embrace remote work kind of after some of the social distancing and after some of the shelter-in-place situations are over or eased up or what have you. And so, that's nice, and we talk about that. But what's interesting about it, the more I think through this situation, is about how many of these companies they were already prepared. The companies that were already doing remote work, they didn't even have to adjust, right? I mean, I'm sure they adjusted in other ways, and I'm sure it wasn't that simple, especially since you have a lot of remote workers and you probably have still folks in a corporate office, right? I mean, you're just there's a few companies that are 100% virtual, but not everybody. Usually you have a corporate headquarters or one location, and then the rest of your workers, might be remote or a combination. But I think to myself, man, what an advantage that they have right now that they didn't have to go through the struggle or hire a consultant to help them transition to remote work or go out and try to find laptops, right? Or, say you still have companies that are still doing desktops and things, and there was a large amount of laptops for a while in the supply chain that just weren't available because people were buying them so fast and doing the remote work, or they needed the tool and just didn't have the ability to do it, or needed an extra laptop for kids at school, whatever. And I'm thinking, wow, they were really ahead of the game. And I'm sure they weren't thinking this situation, as most people on the planet were not. But wow, it just brings up the whole concept of being prepared. And if you're already working remote, if you already had those things in place, you were 10, 100 steps ahead of everybody else in your same industry and other industries, right? Some places have had to even pivot their entire industry and get into, like we look at drink factories, getting into hand sanitizer. We look at clothing factories getting into masks and other things. And it just kind of depends. Or we get into automotive companies getting into ventilators and things of that nature. And so it just really struck me how some people were completely prepared for this just based on good practices and being ready to pivot. And maybe remote work isn't the complete answer. I'm not really going there with that. But my point is there's just so much you can do about being prepared and being ready. So obviously, remote work, I've said that 7 times in this video. And then, a lot of times I've had strategy work with clients, large and small, lately because of this. A lot of them need help with pivoting, again, that very thing, pivoting in their industry, getting into remote work. But I found the real clients that are winning are the ones, and they're still bringing me in for help, but they're the ones that, hey, see if there's any gaps in our remote work that we're already doing, Rob. Rob, give us your evaluation if we're looking at this industry correctly. Rob, look at our supply chain gaps that we have now. Rob, update our disaster plans, disaster recovery plans, backup plans, contingency plans, whether it's technical, whether it's human capital, whether it's an overall business strategy for disaster recovery. And the companies that are winning already had that in place. And all I needed to do was come in for a shorter period of time at obviously a much less expense to the company, and update those plans and just review them and say, you know what, guys, you're spot on, or let's adjust this, let's tweak this, let's add this. Have you considered this? What would you do if this went on longer than X amount of time, right? And then the companies that are spending a lot more and having trouble are the ones, well, yes, please come in. We don't have a DR plan. So you have to start from scratch. And you have people who are not used to working remote. You have executives who have no idea what to do. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but people don't know what to do. Don't just assume that because they're at the top, they know what they're doing. This is a tough situation for everybody, and stress it'll get the best of us. The best leaders, you find out who the best leaders are if that's the case. But going back to the DR plans, most people weren't prepared. And the problem is those companies needed the cash and needed revenue and needed expense reduction more than the companies who did not have or that had a plan already in place. And what's nice is that shows who's going to win and who's not. Because if you didn't have these contingency plans, if you weren't prepared, if you mentally didn't already have a lot of these things in place and just needed to do a little tweaks, now you have to spend more money that you really can't afford because you weren't ready for those things. And you now have to spend twice as much money than if you would have just brought me in to tweak a plan or update your organizational development or those kind of things. And so that just is becoming a problem. And that is what is separating good companies from great companies. Not even good from bad, but good from great. And bad companies, they're gone. We've already seen the bankruptcies. They're going to be coming the rest of this year. We know it. There's going to be a large percentage of businesses that will not exist after this. And that's unfortunate, but let's look at it. It's Darwinism for business. Survival of the fittest, that's capitalism, that's how it works. But this is what's going to separate good from great. And the good companies will actually become the bad companies that can't function very well. And they'll overspend, and they won't adjust. And they'll go out of business eventually, even if they survive this. And then you'll have the great companies full of strong leaders, good planning, solid organizational development, and a willingness to invest in themselves when they need to. And it's funny because, I think I talked in one of my LinkedIn posts about the difference between expansion and contraction. And we'll go in another video another time. But an expansionist mindset and investing in yourself, not just throwing money at a problem, but actually investing, making sure those plans are good, making sure that your people are taken care of, that they have the tools, that they're comfortable, that they're happy, that they're not stressed out because of the situation, that you're working on their mindset as much as the executive is working on his or her mindset every day. So critical. And that's where these companies are going to win. That's where they're going to profit. That's where they're going to look for opportunities. Those are the ones that are going to be, eat or be eaten, right? They're the ones that are going to buy up 7 competitors. They're the ones that are going to do these mega mergers. These are the ones that are the small regional plumbing company that buys 8 other ones that are going out of business because of whatever reason, right? And so that's what you're going to see. And so my suggestion is, no matter what, there needs to be a baseline plan. There needs to be, you can call it contingency plan, you can call it disaster recovery, you can call it emergency plan, but I'll guarantee 90% of businesses don't have it. I don't have data, I don't have research, but I'll bet you it's 90%. And the 10% that do probably need to have them updated. It's just not, you might have contingencies in your head, like, oh, what do I do if my payroll goes? Oh, well, I have this ledger book, I can take care of it, blah, blah, blah. But, to have a full-on contingency plan written and documented that you communicate to your executive team and all your employees, I bet you don't have it. And I would, if you didn't make any investment else this year, I would put that together if you think you're still going to be in business after this, because it's so critical and it's going to make all the difference going forward, and it'll help you develop this forward-thinking attitude as we go through other issues, recessions, depressions, political cycles, what have you. So keep that in mind. keep going. If I can help, great. But go playing. Have a great day.